Hello, everyone. This is Dave Thompson. I am your host here at Beyond Clean with Ace, a podcast where the cleaning industry talks about, well, virtually anything and everything. We like three words: healthy, positive, and proactive. Now, you might notice that I am not by myself today. You do not have to listen to me for the whole hour. It's not that boring. No, I didn't think I was boring anyway. Anyway, Shallan, you are on the West Coast, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep, I am. I'm right in Southern Oregon, little tiny town, Southern Oregon.
Southern Oregon. You know, it's got that. You know, I don't want to know why we always talk about temperature these days, but you know, global warming and the temperature craze has just been something this summer that's covering all of us. What's it like over in Oregon? I mean, I'm in Florida, so it's hot all the time.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, our weather has been like all over the place. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like on July 3rd, I had like a foot of like just thick hail, like all over my back deck. Like it came down so hard, it like broke the little roof of our overhang. And then like a week later, like we're in like more than 100-degree temperatures. Like it's just been like, I mean, honestly, today, I think it's going to be like 102. It's been like 100. And then, you know, we then have the wildfires to worry about. So there was a wildfire just probably like 10 miles south of our town that started about a week and a half ago. And then, you know, then you get socked in with smoke and like, it's just been crazy. The last like several summers, like the fires have been insane. And it's mostly because it's so much hotter and drier than it ever would have been in the past. And so it definitely is impacting us like on a daily basis.
Now, folks, you're probably wondering why we start talking about weather, and there's not a reason for it. It's just the fact that Shallan and I, well, we've kind of known each other for a while. She was down here at Gym Supply, our sponsor, and brought us a unique product that took care of a certain, issue, and one that will always be around as long as there's women in the world, correct?
Yep, that's right.
So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what Shallan is doing, how long you've been doing it, and what's this women's product?
Okay, yeah, no worries. So really, there's always been a major discrepancy in the way that blood is treated in every other environment in comparison to the women's public restroom setting. And so what our primary focus is to address bloodborne pathogen exposure risk in that very setting. So MaskIT is a product I invented, and ultimately it's a single-use plant-based disposal bag. But what makes it so unique is it actually provides glove-like protection during the removal of a menstrual item. It inverts to self-contain everything and then seals permanently shut. And so through that process, if you can imagine, the glove-like protection is helping reduce touchpoint contamination throughout the restroom, but also the fact that everything is sealed inside is going to prevent custodial staff from occupational exposure risk as well. So we're really focused on the health and safety aspect of the women's public restroom. That's sort of been ignored, probably because people are uncomfortable talking about menstruation generally. And that's really not a good thing, because ultimately it's just leaving everyone who uses a public restroom at risk, as well as custodial staff. Because people who are familiar with bloodborne pathogens know that like Hep B, Hep C, MRSA, they're all living on surfaces outside the body, even in dried blood. So, and you can contract these things through mucous membranes, small cuts, abrasions on the fingers. It really doesn't take as much as you might think. And so when you think about the fact that currently people are handling blood and then they're touching receptacles and flushing toilets and opening stall doors and soap and water, all the touch points you can imagine, it actually is kind of a serious issue that should have been addressed a long time ago. And I guess I don't know why it didn't already exist, to be honest, but I'm the one who had the idea and I'm not giving up. So we're just trying to, focus on that health and safety. The good thing for facilities is that although they've been kind of putting the health and safety aspect to the side, most facilities do struggle with like plumbing issues from people flushing menstrual items. There's like a big overconsumption of toilet paper because right now that's all that's being provided in stalls. So people are trying to cover blood saturated items in toilet paper, and then that doesn't work very well. So the receptacles become dirty. It's always been a pain point for custodial staff, if you will. And our product not only addresses health and safety, but our dispenser that goes in every single restroom stall instructs people not to flush. So do not flush your menstrual hygiene items. We're providing this solution for you to, sanitary and safe disposal of your items. So what happens is that facilities who implement our product see a reduction in plumbing issues, reduction in toilet paper consumption, overall happier custodial staff. And at the end of the day, they're really providing just a superior guest experience for anyone who's using the restroom. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. The thing about it is you started this just, not all that long before COVID, and you've managed to stay viable through the pandemic. Let's talk a little bit about that journey, because I think it was you and your daughter that was, if I remember right, and that issue that got it all started out of a family need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the moment of my idea really happened in my own house. So it was back actually in the fall of 2012 when I first had the idea. I was walking down the hallway in my house, and I opened the guest bathroom door, and I see this trash can that's just like overflowing with toilet paper and all the wrappers and whatnot from menstrual hygiene. And I just had this moment of like frustration because there was really nothing else that we could do. I have 3 daughters, so let me go back and say that. So at the time I had 2 teenage daughters. They were menstruating and they knew we couldn't flush, so they were really ultimately doing all that we could do, which is trying to wrap their stuff in toilet paper and put it in the trash can. But I just had this moment of like, oh my God, there's got to be a better way. I had a background working in medical environments. So I was actually a unit secretary in an emergency department in San Francisco, probably in like 2003 to 2008-ish. And when I was working there is when I first became educated about bloodborne pathogens. And it's also when I noticed the discrepancy. And in fact, I was like, is menstrual blood? Like, I was like asking.
Yeah, it's blood. I mean, come on. Yeah, it is.
So I was like,
it's a body fluid, right?
Exactly. So I was like, had all these red flags going off. I'm like, it's taken so seriously here. But then I go into the restroom and like, I'm seeing blood like on the receptacle, like less than a foot away from me, like, like nothing's happening. So I had like a unique perspective that I think just like everything in my life led to this moment of why I was able to come up with this idea that would be beneficial, like not only at home, but also in the public restroom settings. I was like, why couldn't you just have something you put on your hand before you remove your item, invert to self-contain and seal it shut? I wanted something that would block odor on a molecular level, that didn't have an extra scent. I wanted something that wouldn't leak. It had to be soft and flexible. And so that sounds a lot like plastic, right? But I wasn't. So essentially I went into my kitchen, started making prototypes. I'll fast forward. But when I was doing research, I realized 20 billion tampons and pads go to US landfills every year. And in that moment, I actually made a conscious decision that I would do nothing with my idea unless I could find a truly environmentally friendly way to do it, because I wasn't about to contribute potentially, 20 billion single-use plastics to landfills every year to address.
You didn't want to just be another one adding to the whole list of all the issues. You were trying to solve one, not create one.
Exactly. So fast forward 6 months and a lot of research and hours I can't even count. I eventually found 100% plant-based biofilm. So it's actually already organic material. I felt really confident and great about using that as our film. And then it took me another 1.5 years before I was able to find a US manufacturing facility that would convert it at like high production levels. So that was also a journey. So then fall of 2014, we had launched initially for home use, because even though in my business plan, I wanted to launch public restrooms first, I had run out of money. I'd spent all my money back to all my credit cards, like just trying to bring the product to life. And so for the first couple of years, we were focused on like Amazon and then also retail sales. We got into probably more than 500 retail locations, including like outdoor stores. So like REI, Sportsman's Warehouse, different places where like people may be shopping for a product to be able to pack it in, pack it out type of thing, right? For the outdoors. And then we got summer of 2016, we had gotten enough attention locally, I actually got my first outside investment, and then I was able to get the wall-mounted dispenser for the public restroom setting. So we launched that the fall of 2016. We launched at ISSA in Chicago, if anyone was there. That was our first little dabble into the JanSan industry. Picked up our first couple distributors. And then, as you can imagine, like if you are in the industry and educated, this product just makes so much sense. But that was kind of the journey. You know, our goal was to be able to use janitorial distribution throughout the country to be able to bring this to as many people as possible. Fast forward, by the fall of 2019, I think at that point we were in about 45 airports, probably like 50 plus colleges and universities. Like we were really starting to get traction, like we were getting noticed. And then, of course, the beginning of 2020.
And then all hell broke loose and nothing happened. Everything shut down, and you're going, man, I should have stayed in the home market.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just like holding my breath because I was like, is anything that we've done even going to matter? Like it was such, I'm sure as everyone experienced, just so much unknown and uncertainty and like what's going to happen. Because interestingly, when we did get the wall-mounted dispenser, we completely shifted our efforts to the public restroom setting, and we were just letting the other side of the business grow as it would. Because in my opinion, MaskIT could benefit public restrooms like significantly in reducing plumbing issues, cleanliness, all the things, but it would also benefit women. And then also my idea was that then menstruators would actually see this in the public restroom setting. They would then use it. They would like it, and then hopefully they would try and find us and buy it for their home as well. So it was kind of like just all made much more sense to focus in that area.
But then again, if everybody quit moving around and nobody's in the buildings and nobody's flying in planes going to the restrooms, all of that kind of goes screeching halt.
Exactly.
And so you know, I think the interesting thing here as we talk about this, you know, is you're not the normal entrepreneur in the cleaning industry. I mean, you're probably one of a handful of women that have made it into the JanSan as a viable, reasonable, you know, business that's sticking. And then you had to, you know, I just had to think, oh gosh, what have I, and what do I do now?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's interesting because although like, of course, the first few weeks I did have like this feeling of like almost panic, like it took a little while for it to really hit us because we had so much traction. Like people were still kind of ordering in the very beginning of COVID. I don't think anyone realized like how long it would last, like what was going on. But then I also had just kind of an overwhelming sense of peace. And I think it's just because I truly like really believe in what we're doing. This whole thing, MaskIT, is about way more than money for me. Like I just actually really believe that like I'm the one who's supposed to bring this to the world. So I just kind of like went with that feeling of peace. And luckily our home solutions, like maybe because a lot of these workers went home, because we were also in a lot of Fortune 500 companies by the fall of 2019. But our home sales like on Amazon just kind of skyrocketed. We had a private label partner as well. That business also grew. So we actually ended up showing growth in both 2020 and 2021, which was a miracle. I mean, really, it was very, very exciting for us because
you know, women still were here. They were just not in the workplace. They still needed exactly what you started at whole, you know, because of that waste can at home with the 3 girls. I mean, that still was an issue. That still is what women were dealing with.
Exactly.
And your reason for being wasn't gone. You had to kind of take a break and let the air out and kind of relax in a way. And then, oh, wait a minute, we got another wave coming.
Right, exactly. So that continued to grow. And then, gosh, I feel like what's interesting for us, and you know, because you knew me early on, like we've always been focused on health and safety well before a pandemic hit.
Right.
And so like in the back of my mind, I also was hopeful that like, hey, anybody who's been interested in MaskIT before and maybe hadn't pulled the trigger yet, like perhaps this whole COVID experience is going to give people a little bit more perspective on how important it is to keep like facilities really nice and clean and prevent the spread of disease.
Yeah, all of a sudden, everybody suddenly realized that there's a whole industry that they need, and they were like struggling with what do we do now? All of a sudden, in a panic, and we're going knock knock. We've always been here. Wake up, folks!
Exactly.
The need didn't start just because of the pandemic. And by the way, folks, if you're listening to this podcast or watching us on video right now, we'll always be here. There will always be a need because it doesn't change. We're always doing what we're doing.
Exactly. So, so it was pretty interesting, but like, I mean, again, like I said, like now we're seeing like all of that facility solutions business coming back. We still have a lot of Fortune 500s that aren't fully back to work, but we have a lot of new Fortune 500s that have been moving forward with the solution the beginning of this year as they're preparing to bring people back to work. So not only is it like, health and safety in general is great, but MaskIT is actually kind of a visible way for facilities to show like their employees or guests that they care, because we actually provide educational signage for the back of stall doors, which shares like, hey, we care about you. We're providing this to you for safe sanitary disposal. We're providing you a touch-free experience because MaskIT really is the only touch-free experience available for menstrual hygiene disposal. So yeah, I mean, today I think we're in like 76 airports, more than 100 colleges and universities, and full campus implementations, even with universities like Georgia Tech, of course, like Texas Christian University, Clemson, like the list goes on. So we've seen like universities who were maybe using on just a small area of campus pre-COVID, who are now like, okay, yeah, this really worked. We want it everywhere. Or like, for example, we had in the fall of 2019 went into a Geico call center in San Diego. They had excellent results. And now this year they'll be moving forward with all of their call centers. Like, so that's kind of how we're seeing like this amazing growth. The beginning of this year is people who were kind of dabbling in it before experienced COVID. And now they're like, yes, we actually really need this everywhere.
What's interesting is, and I said this a minute ago, is women in the cleaning industry don't, I just feel like don't get a fair shake a lot of times, get recognized. And I noticed another woman-owned business and I'm not sure, maybe you know a little bit more about the history of the ladies and what they're doing, but I noticed this recently. Because as you said, with the pandemic and everything, a lot of different things came out of that, and probably still will as we go through the next one and the next one. It's coming yet to be seen. But now there are two women that had an issue at home in a public place. It was just so coincidental that I then happened to see something, and here's Shallan's face on the front cover of Fortune or of Forbes. And I'm going, okay, we got to talk, girl.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I guess like bringing it back to your original question, like being a woman entrepreneur in the industry. I think like at first it was honestly kind of like a social experiment. Because as you know, like most of the people in the Jansan industry are male. Like, let's just be honest, like the distributors we were working with, we would be lucky if there were one or two female sales reps of like 25. Like it was like so male dominated. It was just like extraordinarily interesting for me as a woman to be bringing this product that's related to, needs for menstruators. In facilities, and then most of the facility managers were also male. And so it was just very interesting because some men were actually very, I think all men were somewhat familiar with the problem because either they'd heard about it from custodial staff, or maybe they heard about it from their wife or a daughter or whatnot. So everyone, whether or not they wanted to admit it, was kind of familiar with it. And some people were like, yes, yes, yes. And then other people were just literally like, please don't talk to me about this. I don't want to talk to you about this. Let me get somebody else that you can talk to, but it's not me. Like, so it was very, very interesting. But I just was like, trying to be patient. The way I approached it is I'm very comfortable with the topic. Like, this is really just a part of life. This impacts half the population of the world. Like,
Absolutely.
it's kind of ridiculous that it would be an uncomfortable conversation in, the year 2017, 2018. I mean, wow. Right. So I was very at ease. And I think I definitely could see people become more at ease the more I talked, because I really wasn't like focused on talking about the specifics of menstruation. I was just talking about the reality of what happens, like in this public restroom setting, and people are handling blood, and just, comparing it to other things that they did in the facility. Like, if there's blood in the lobby of a facility, then what happens? And getting them to recognize, oh gosh, we bring out the bloodborne pathogen kit, we take all these precautions, we do all this stuff. So I was very much focused on just facts and remaining at ease myself. So I think that really helped. And then I think the more we became, known in the industry and known among facilities, like, it became easier and easier because people were talking about us when we weren't around, like, or even like at ISSA, right? Like, somebody would come up and talk to our booth, and then we'd have other people come up and be like, I heard about you from this or that or the other, because it was just so unique and different. For me personally, like, if I'm being totally honest, like, I don't think of myself as a woman entrepreneur. I really just think of myself as an entrepreneur. And so in some ways it's like an interesting question, because like I didn't enter this whole mission of bringing the solution to market thinking I'm a woman. I just was thinking there's a need and I'm going to do something about it. And so like, I wouldn't know it any other way, because I guess I am a woman, but I don't think of myself as that. So I've never let the fact that I'm a woman really intimidate me from anything. I do, and I have recognized, unfortunately, through this experience, that there's definitely a lot of discrimination in ways that you might not really think about. But, one being like, if you're trying to raise money as a woman, investors definitely do not invest as much in women-owned companies as they do in men. Like, the statistics are like crazy. It's like something like less than 3% of all investment money goes to women-owned companies. So there is definitely.
Why do you think that is, though? Do you think it's because there's not a lot of women like you and the other two ladies actually in this industry doing it, or is it because they're so occupied? I mean, there's a lot of things that pull all of us all kinds of directions, right?
No, definitely. It partially, I bet partially that there's just not as many women out there trying to do entrepreneurial things, but of the ones that are, I think that there just is like some skepticism. And I think it's just cultural. I think it's like cultural, I don't know, what would you call it? Like misconceptions, like over time, like people have just thought of women as not being in the workplace or the business place, which obviously that has changed at this point. Like, there's a large majority of the workforce is women, but there's still like these old ideas that I think impact the decisions of some investors. So that's one area where I've noticed like that it's kind of an unfair, disadvantage that I am a woman, because if I was a man bringing the same idea to the same investment group, like, it potentially could have been different. So that's one area.
But on the other hand, though, a man would not have approached this with the same mission, the same view. A man could not have done it, and that's why it didn't exist.
Exactly.
Right?
No, I agree with you fully. But yeah, so that's one area where I've noticed. And then the other area, which is so interesting, but people out there may think like being like a certified women-owned business is supposed to be seen as an advantage in some ways, because there are like government and certain like large corporations and companies who are making it a goal to do a certain amount of business with, diversity-owned businesses or women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses, whatnot, right? But this is an interesting thing. Like, we do business with huge companies like Google and, like I mentioned before, Geico, Texas Instruments, like distributors. We have lots of government business, and we've earned all of that business throughout this journey from the beginning. But recently, like, I had gone to a Certified Women-Owned Business National Council conference, And there's a lot of large corporations there, and they are looking for diversity-owned businesses. But here's the thing, like they make you fill out all this paperwork. Like they ask you about your sales numbers. They ask you like financial information. They ask you all this information. So it's almost like, it feels like discrimination, because even though I'm doing business with like huge companies, that should be enough. Like I can give them references, right? But they're like, what if I was a man-owned company? I would never be asked by corporations for our financials or like how many sales we're doing. Like we obviously have been around for a while. We're doing great business with huge places. And so I felt like, just honestly, that it was almost like an opportunity to discriminate. Because if I had seen like those companies outside of that, conference, like I would never be asked for that kind of information. So I know they say it's an advantage, but I actually think it's kind of discrimination. So
how does it feel now then, after all of that being said? And I understand both sides of that. And I've done enough with government to understand red tape and all of the crossing T's and dotting I's. And I can only imagine. And I know some people that have went through what you're went through already.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I know anybody that's been on the cover of Forbes. That had to be an experience.
Yes. I mean, that was definitely a pinnacle moment for my journey. And I have all sorts of stories from my entrepreneurial journey, but it's definitely been like one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And it's 100% a roller coaster. And I think if I wasn't so determined and I didn't have such a 100% belief in what I'm doing, like there would have been multiple times I would have wanted to quit. But I just wouldn't allow myself to go there. So yes, originally, like I was interviewed by a writer from Entrepreneur and Forbes, and that was a surreal moment, just even that they would be interested in interviewing me. And, I think we had become known to them because we had been recognized as like a top 13 brands, mindful brands making a difference in 2022. And that was really based on the fact that we're trying to impact the environment in a positive way. We're impacting health and safety. Like we have all these aspects. We actually plant a tree for every product we sell. So we have like all these very brand specific things we do that make us a mindful brand. And then, when I had that interview, I just was like, so flattered that they would even want to talk to me, to be honest, but so also excited. And then, when I saw my face on the cover of Forbes in the article, which was very well written, actually, I love the article. So anybody who wants to read a good article should go and read it. It's not just about me. It's just in general about women entrepreneurs and like, the challenges that we face and how at some point, hopefully we'll be recognized as just entrepreneurs and not necessarily women entrepreneurs. So,
but you'll take it for now because I see the smile and the glow on your face all of a sudden, so I know that, that is definitely one, if you reach something higher than that, that's another bar up, huh?
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely, it was one of those moments where, you just have like, just this internal, like, yes, like this is what all this hard work has been about. Like we're finally getting recognized for what we're doing because it does matter,
So is there a pivot or is there another hill to climb for 23 and on beyond? I mean, people are saying, and you said that, a lot of people are coming back to the workplace. Some of the workplaces aren't going to come back like they were before, but then others now recognize that this is an issue. So I'm not sure it's going to play bad for you. I think it's probably going to be an upward journey. Is there something that we're going to pivot to later, or are we just going to keep pushing this train?
No, we're definitely plan to keep pushing in what we're doing. What our goal is as a company would be to be able to provide a complete solution for menstruation at some point. So, we are very much like organic and, biodegradable type of company. And so it would be great if we could at some point be offering like the whole solution, like whatever anyone needs for the bathroom related to menstrual care. So in addition to the menstrual hygiene disposal, that we would then also offer other menstrual care items. But we also plan to not pivot, but we've always had this in the plan, is just kind of to expand our line. So this concept can really be translated to a lot of different things that are hygiene related. So we're developing a larger size right now that could be used for adult incontinence products. We already have a bladder pad and liner size, but for example, like adult diapers. So when
you went right where I was going to ask you if you were going, because it's one of these things I realize when you go, and I mean, hey, my wife's probably going to shoot me when she hears this, but the thing is we're both over 60s, and those issues are now something that we are looking at. Okay.
Right.
And you go to the grocery store and there's a whole aisle full of those, just as many options and choices, and take up as much shelf space as the baby diapers.
Oh,
so
totally.
I've always thought there's got to be a place for people to discreetly go and dispose of these in a restroom, but there isn't.
Exactly.
And so you're going down that's what I was about to ask you. You were going to go pivot that direction, and here you are. You're already.
Yeah. So I would say expanding, maybe rather than pivoting. My original passion obviously is menstrual hygiene disposal, but at the same time, like, we already do have a size that works for bladder pads and liners. But just like I was saying, like, even yesterday I was in an airport dropping off my daughter, and our local custodial staff knows who I am. So I'm at the airport, and he pulled me aside because we've been talking about this for a while, but what they end up finding is like full adult size diapers that are stuffed into the menstrual receptacles, especially in the handicapped stalls. So, or people are just putting them out in the regular trash, but more likely they're going to leave them in the stall because they don't want to carry it out. So,
I mean, I've seen it. They just lay it on the floor because there's no other place to put it, and they're not going to carry it out with them. They don't want to be seen with it.
Exactly. So, what makes us unique is, like, again, that we're going to be offering this plant-based product that blocks odor on a molecular level, that will prevent leaks. So ultimately, yes, our vision would be that we can also offer a solution, perhaps even just for the handicapped stalls, that provides these discrete disposal bags for those adult diapers. And then the other area that we're also developing, and we have prototypes on both of these that are in development right now, is for baby diapers. So a little dispenser that would go next to the diaper changing stations that would provide the same features, like plant-based, blocks odor on a molecular level, will hold everything in. So and the reason for that one is because I've heard from custodial staff that moms will take the diaper and just put it in the regular trash can, like with the paper towels and everything else. And then the odor from those baby diapers smells up the entire restroom. Like, it can be just like one baby diaper that can impact how clean the restroom feels.
Yeah, it's the same odor issue that you're talking about menstrual items, about adult items, baby changing. And, the thing is all of this kind of goes into one kind of big hygiene area as we're talking here, folks. Because, whenever they came out with the baby changing law for government facilities, that men's restrooms had to have them as well as women, then I got to looking into how do you clean these things. And I was looking at the protocol for how do you clean these baby changing stations. And I was appalled at the fact of what people were putting out, how to take care of them. And recently I saw something with these two ladies that we just talked about that have a proclaimed self-sanitizing using UV light for the baby changing table. And I'm still thinking about it. As I look through all of that stuff, nobody's talking about cleaning it before you close it. So there's got to be some way to actually wipe that station down. Where are you going to throw that? And then I look over the whole thing, and here it still is. There's no receptacle for the diaper.
Right.
And you're hitting all of those points. And I think there's a lot yet to be done, because this 5% of the building, which is the restroom, is only 5% of the building. Yeah. There's still 50% of the complaints, and those complaints are odor.
Yeah. No, for sure. I totally agree with you. So we have exciting things like that. So we plan to expand, but I do think, at the end of the day, like, even though, like you said early on, like, we like on Shark Tank, like we may be considered like a one product company. There's a need for this one product we have in a lot of different variations and sizes for a lot of different products. So yeah, I think we have huge potential to continue to grow. And my vision would be that at some point, MaskIT is in every single public restroom stall, because it really is truly the only touch-free experience available for health and safety reasons alone. I think, that it should be everywhere. So I'm excited about that. And I'm looking forward to being able to bring more solutions, really also for custodial staff, right? Like the fact when everything is enclosed and sealed before they have to handle it is a huge advantage for them as well. So,
well, if I were one of the custodial staff still today, I would be thanking you, but I'm not. I'm not doing it, but I'm still thanking you for actually bringing something about that's helping them, because all the years that I've done it, I've always, had disdain for that. And there's many women and men, all included, that do not take care of those facilities for the simple reason there wasn't a good way to do it. So, I know from your side, it's the user, but from my side, it's the person who has to clean up after the users. Well, and absolutely. We appreciate the fact of what you've done for our industry as well. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that were my job, I would certainly want to be cleaning a restroom where MaskIT was provided versus one that was not. So, I see advantage for there. And then I also agree with you. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with time. Like I know Brittany Heiser, I think she's doing the Pluie thing with the diaper changing stations, and she's an awesome person as well, and just really out there pushing her product. So props to her. But I think the more that time goes on, the more women who start interjecting with their perspective, it will be interesting to see what happens in the restroom, right? Because if you think about like the advancements, like in the men's restroom, like we literally have special toilets for men because they don't want to sit down, right? And then we have like these special things that we put in those special toilets so that things don't splash or things don't, create odor.
Okay, so now that you're talking about this, you're going to make me talk about something else here, Shallan. One of my pet peeves about all public restrooms is that there's no lid on the toilets.
Right.
And people go, but that's something you have to clean. I'm going, wait a minute. Do you realize that every toilet in a public restroom sneezes? And there's what's called a toilet sneeze, and it spreads all of these germs and bacteria that you're so concerned about that we're in there trying to control. And every time you flush it without a lid. And then, of course, then the ladies come along and say, do you know how much trouble it would be if there was a lid on every toilet? I'm sorry, but, I'm about infection prevention.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you close the lid before you flush. Gentlemen, if you're listening to this, a urinal has a urinal sneeze as well. Yeah. So guys, don't think that just because you go to the urinal that when you flush it, it doesn't come back on you, because it does.
Totally. Yeah. So
well, that's too much information, right? I mean, we weren't.
No. But my point being, like, because facility management, because the Jansen industry has been so male dominated, we have all these special things for the men's restroom. Like I said, including something to stand on, like, these little urinal cakes in the bottom of the urinals, which are a special toilet designed for men because they prefer to pee a different way, right? But now that if we start looking at the other side, like there just really hasn't been as many women in the industry. But I think that hopefully, like what we're doing, like what I'm doing, what Brittany Heiser is doing, what Claire Coder is doing, like with the amp flow stuff, like I think the more women that interject themselves into spotting out the problems that we come across in the public restroom setting, the more innovation and the more things that we're going to see improve in the women's public restroom setting. So even though it may not seem like a glamorous industry to be in for a woman, I think women are very much needed in the industry because we have a unique perspective. We have different issues and different problems. And, even though they may not be talked about as much at this time, like I hope as time goes on and more, education is available for people, like people will feel more comfortable coming up, out with the problems that they have. And I think there's still a lot of room for improvement in innovation in the women's public restroom setting, in addition to menstrual hygiene disposal. practices.
I mean, yeah, women,
Mhm.
I think there's going to be more because people are understanding that. And I think this is what COVID has done for the business climate.
Yeah.
It has pushed people to think, and as I said, pivot to different things that they were not doing before, and to look further at what's going on. And I think you're bringing about something that you saw before this.
Yeah.
There's more women in the workplace than there ever has been. And I think that we also are looking at the newer generation now. A mission statement is much more important. And I think that's kind of one of what you're bringing up here is that there is a purpose and a mission behind just the product itself. And I think all of these things are going to kind of drive what you're talking about. Yeah. I don't know, just 23, but even in further than that.
Right, exactly. And I think, that being said, like, we are a mission-based company. And I think that any truly mission-based company is always going to have an advantage because there's so much more behind it than just like having a successful business or making money, right? But right. I think what's interesting is, like, as you're right, with the new generations, like, we have different perspective coming in. And I think people genuinely care about companies who are doing good things, right? So I think there's definitely an advantage to that.
So I have to ask a question, though, because I was thinking about this. You know, you've got 3 daughters, and you said you were putting one on an airplane. And I'm thinking, are they anywhere involved in any of this? Or what? I'm kind of curious there, if you can divulge any of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually, my oldest daughter runs operations for the company. Like, she was brilliant. She actually graduated with her bachelor's degree at 20 years old. And she just has come in. She started working for the company, I think in 2017 or 2018, she came in, and she has just been an incredible asset. And then my second daughter, she also has worked for MaskIT part-time. She actually has a baby now, so not so much anymore. I have a little grandbaby. Her name's Kalea, and she's amazing. And then
congratulations, Grandma.
Thank you. And then my youngest daughter, she's going to be a sophomore in high school, and she actually will also come in and help part-time. So all of my daughters have been involved in some way at some point in the business, for sure.
Well, hey, I appreciate an hour of your time. I mean, I got to tell you, this is an experience for me because I've never talked to anybody that was on the cover of Forbes. So, hey, what the heck? It's great too. There's got to be something on the bucket list. I usually say for this year, but there's not much left of this year. So I'm going to go this way. What's on your personal bucket list for 23 next year? So not business wise, something that you want to do for yourself.
Okay. I mean, I just already know what it is.
Oh, hey, that was quick. All right, good.
Yeah. So I actually just during COVID got married. So my husband, Josh, he actually works with me, and we had a very small, just my 3 daughters in the living room, got married in December 12th, 2020. Because of COVID, we didn't do anything big, but that means we also have still not been on a honeymoon. And there's this particular cruise that I really want to go on. It actually, I think it starts in Hawaii, and it goes to all the Hawaiian islands, and then it goes to the South Pacific, and you get to go to all the Tahiti islands, and it's a 2-week long cruise.
Wow.
And I really want that vacation. So I'm hoping by next year, we're going to be able to do that.
Okay. So maybe by August of next year, we need to get you back on to see if you got that bucket list done, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good to me. Folks, if you're watching the video, we've had MaskIT, the website, and her email address running across the ticker through the whole podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, go into the show notes. You can get all of that information there. We're so glad to have you on, and you're welcome to come back anytime. Thank you.
I appreciate you asking me to be on. It's been a while since I've seen you. So even though, it's through the camera, I'm glad I got to see you. And definitely next time I'm in Florida, I'll be coming by to say hi.
Folks, if you will, please go to beyondcleanwithace.com. like and share all of our podcasts. I got to tell you, over on Podbean, we've done a lot of live feeds. We're not doing live today there, but I think 8,000 downloads here in the last few years. We appreciate all of that. If you want some of the video work that we do, go to our YouTube site, Academy of Clean. Please like and share what we're doing there. Share it so everybody knows what we're doing. There's a reason that we ask all these questions here at the end of the show, like where's she going next year? Because, you know, it's not where you were born. It's not where you're doing today. It's not where you're in, because we don't know where you're going to end yet. But we want you to make sure that that journey that you're on is healthy, positive, and proactive. Keep a smile on your face like Shallan had her. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.